that, and I will now move on to our main speaker, one of our main speakers for today. Allow me to introduce to you Dr. Liia Lauri, the Assessment Director at the Estonian Quality Agency for Education, overseeing the institutional accreditation of higher education institutions in Estonia since 2015. She also leads the coordination of the quality label of e-courses award since 2020. With a research degree in information society technologies from Tallinn University, Dr. Lauri brings a wealth of experience in conducting training on internal and external quality assurance. She has a strong interest in digitally enhanced teaching and learning and has been actively involved in supporting self-evaluation teams and international expert teams in higher education institutions. Dr. Lauri, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Pamela, for this kind introduction. And good afternoon, everybody. It's nice to be here today and share my thoughts and ideas about the developments in higher education in Estonia. So very pleased to be here. So some points to outline what I'm going to talk about. Next slide, please. So first of all, I will give some general overview of Estonian higher education system, some developments, and more particularly some challenges we are facing. I guess this is perhaps most important or most interesting thing. Then I will talk a little bit about quality assurance in higher education and the tension and balance between accountability and enhancement, as we all face nowadays. And thirdly, I will focus on the digitally enhanced teaching and learning, some challenges we are facing and something that we have done so far. So we can move forward. Yes, some words about the HAKA, the abbreviation for the Estonian Quality Agency for Education. We are dealing with 4 areas of education. Higher education, vocational education and training, continuing education, and general education. So the wide scope of developments under one institution. And as we are today focusing more on the higher education, I will tell more about this part. As for the higher education, we conduct institutional accreditation. And for the initial assessment of study program groups, we are providing expertise for Ministry of Education and Research. And there is also one possibility for state to order thematic reviews or thematic analysis, we have sometimes called those. So to go more deep into some topics, for example, we piloted this thematic review a couple of years back on the topic teaching and learning of international students in Estonia. So this is some possibilities for us to go to focus more on some topics. So by next click, Pamela, you can make it visible. The other activities across the areas, we develop our standards and guidelines together with the stakeholders. We provide trainings for higher education institutions and experts, and we conduct analysis based on the data, on the assessment results, which is also quite important. And we are very active internationally. We see this as a very important thing to learn ourselves. And the next slide will show some of our recent activities. So we have done projects and assessments in Moldova, in Armenia, in Tajikistan, and even longer project, like 2-year project in Azerbaijan and Georgia. So we welcome very much international institutions or universities to apply for our accreditations, because we belong to ENQA, which is European Network for Quality Agencies, and we are registered in ECAR, which is makes us kind of recognized throughout Europe. So yeah, I think we can move on. Estonian higher education system, just to provide you with some numbers, then Estonia is quite small, as you know, and the higher education system is binary. We have got professional higher education institutions and universities, and there are approximately 45,000 students. And the student numbers have been decreased. 10 years back, we had 70,000 students. So the main reason being low birth rate at some point. So the universities and professional higher education institutions are finding new ways to attract adult learners, but also international students. So these are some developments taking place right now. And most of the students, as you see, are studying at the public universities. Yeah, let's move on. And just this one picture about the graph, very classical post-Bologna higher education system. The structure you see, there are 3 cycles of higher education degrees. There are professional higher education programs and bachelor programs. And the final degree will be bachelor's degree in both cases. Perhaps the most distinctive feature of these programs is the amount of practice included in the curriculum. But in the end, both of the qualifications give access to master programs, and there are integrated bachelor and master programs for engineers, architects, class teacher training, medical programs, and veterinary medicine. So it's quite classical. I suppose you have a very, very similar system of yours. Yeah, maybe I didn't tell one thing is that also the professional higher education institutions can provide master degrees, and it's getting more and more popular. Although they have to apply for separate license for each master program, but this is very popular, and high professional institutions are developing in this regard really fast. Some challenges to outline here. Higher education is free of charge in Estonia for those studying full-time and in Estonian. Maybe it's not really a challenge, but it has been a challenge for institutions to cope with challenging financial situation. So the constant discussion is going on to ask if the some fees can be asked from students. But for now, this is free of charge for students. But the next bullet point says that although the studying is free of charge, most of our students are working while studying. And this is really a challenge for institutions and for students, of course. And majority of students, not majority, but it's half of the student body are identifying themselves as employees rather than students, which is quite challenging and related directly with the next bullet, which is that the dropout rate is quite high in Estonia. Although the institutions are doing some progress, but still, based on the statistics, the first year dropout is around 18% in Estonia. So this is something the institutions are dealing with. And student population has been decreasing, as I said. So the universities are attracting more and more adult students, which is very nice. I guess that the higher education is appreciated by the labor market as well. And one nice thing is that there's financing of higher education and research from the state budget is increasing, and it's about 15% per year, as said in the agreed and the coalition agreement just a couple of months ago. And also, which is good, that the financing for research and development for professional higher education institutions is increasing. Now we come to the quality assurance in higher education. Yes, let's move on. This is the shared responsibility as we see it. HAKA, which means the quality agency, educational institutions, and the state. And we see ourselves as the platform to discuss these quality topics and to promote the quality culture. Of course, we provide the external assessment as well to provide external feedback to institutions. But the main responsibility for the quality relies on educational institutions, of course. We can be the partners for the institutions, but they are the ones responsible to provide high quality education for students. And state, of course, they among the main players here to provide long-term goals, objectives, and licensing in higher education and other functions here as well. So hand in hand, we work very, very actively with this framework. Yes, let's move on. Yes, I think you can do all these clicks. Yeah, wonderful. I guess we should start when talking about quality in higher education about the licensing. If the higher education institution wants to open a new study program in a study program group where there is no license yet, they have to apply to the ministry. And the ministry involves us as quality agency to compose the expert panel and write the report and see if the threshold quality is there. So and then minister takes the decision if the right to provide studies without a term can be granted, but most probably it will be the 3-year license for the first time, and the reassessment will follow. And then we reach the reliable area of education, where the internal quality assurance, this everyday work, takes place. Let's move on. Maybe I'm too fast, but we can answer the questions later, so to make it more clear. And I guess for the quality assurance, this is one of the most important slides here. In Estonia, the one and only external quality assurance tool is the institutional accreditation. There is no study program accreditations or study program group assessments anymore. This is just the institutional level assessment, and it is combined a little bit with the study program assessments, as we have the sample of study programs that are assessed in the course of institutional accreditation. I think this is something new in Europe as well. So, but it has worked quite well for us. We have tested this since 2018, and the results are, and the feedback from institutions is quite good. In the middle, in this circle, you see the 12 accreditation standards. And of course, in the heart of the process is the teaching and learning, with 5 standards: study program, teaching staff, learning and teaching, assessment of students, and learning support system. So this is the core of the whole process, but you can see also the research and development is there as a separate standard. This is not so common in Europe. Service to society was very much appreciated by the higher education institutions, and we got feedback that this is so important that it should be stated as separate standard in the process. And of course, strategic management and resources are covered, pretty common for you as well, I assume. And there are 3 additional standards: quality culture, internationalization, and academic ethics, which were added as the standards in this phase based on the outcomes of the previous assessments. So we saw that these are the topics that need more attention at the state level. We call it nudging somehow, that we should nudge the institutions that they should pay more focus on these topics. Let's move on. Yeah, and some actions of Haka, what we see, where we see our role. The institutional evaluation standards must be up to date and relevant, of course, and it can only happen together with the stakeholders, our experts, higher education institutions. So designing the new model, we always involve them. We include or involve only international experts. So the expert teams are always international. And the training of experts is paid much attention to. And on the other side, at the higher education institutions, we facilitate the self-evaluation. So 1 year before the accreditation visit, we conduct the training at the institutions. And after the assessment, we ask from the institutions the follow-up reports, and we conduct seminars, and we do thematic analysis. So these are the basic framework that we think these seminars and thematic activities are very important complementation to the our everyday work as providing institutional accreditation for institutions. Yes, and some words in the end about the quality standards for digitally enhanced higher education. This is something that we have had to develop within last 3 years or so. So I'm sure you have very similar experience. We started to map the experience in 2020, in the autumn 2020. So we did one analysis to understand how the institutions of higher education have coped with, we called it forced distance learning at that time. And then we did the follow-up report in 2022. So to see where are the strengths, what have we done well, and what are the topics that still need our attention. Yes, let's move on. And based on these studies, we formed a working group where all the institutions of higher education took part, and we amended our institutional accreditation standards and guidelines. We couldn't really change the standards itself as we were in the middle of the accreditation cycle. It wouldn't be fair for all the other institutions. But what we did, we elaborated more the guidelines concerning the digital aspects of teaching and learning. So quite a lot of good examples were added in the guidelines. For example, concerning resources, data protection, user privacy, or development of digital competencies of the teaching staff, or learning support systems for teachers as well as for students, and use of learning management systems, etc. So this is something that we did, trying to support the institutions facing this challenge for them as well as for us. Yes, let's move on. And perhaps now in the end, just to outline one activity that has got very good feedback from the members of the teaching staff. It's the quality label of e-courses. That is, we have experience already since 2008, but only last 3 years it has been under the quality agency's umbrella. And this, first of all, meant the development of criteria, quality criteria for e-courses, and then development of the guidelines, how to develop these good quality e-courses. And perhaps to note that it's not only fully online courses we are talking about. This is also blended learning courses. And this is the good sign for the learners that good teaching takes place in these courses. And this has been very well received from the academic staff because they get feedback to their courses. And if not the quality label at the first time when they apply. And the annual conference has been very popular, where the sharing of these good practices are taking place. Yes. And of course, there are challenges. The methodology of digitally enhanced teaching and learning needs further developments. The digital competence of academic staff is constant thing. And there are some things that are more challenging in the digital environment than in the classroom. These are exams and practical studies, of course. But the good examples and good practices exist. So this is very much about the sharing of the good practices. And the support staff for academic staff and students, these instructional designers, educational technologists are very much appreciated and much needed here. Yes, I think this was something that I planned to tell you. I hope this was something that was of interest. I'm gladly hearing some questions if there might be.
Thank you, Dr. Lauri. I can't see any questions in chat. I don't know if there's anyone who would like to perhaps raise their virtual hand, or feel free to ask any questions in chat. It is now time, you have now some time and space to actually ask any questions, or just perhaps give your own insight or your own comments on what Dr. Lauri has just shared with you today. Until we do get any questions, I have two, Dr. Lauri, if I may. And because the presentation is in my hands, I have the possibility of going back, and I'm going to cheat a little bit. So I'm going to take you back to this particular slide, which I think is key, as you said, during your presentation. And what struck me the most is this new model that you were describing here, where the institutional accreditation somewhat is all-encompassing, if I understood you correctly. So you do not accredit individual programs or individual modules, am I correct?
Mm-hmm.
No.
Mm-hmm.
So, but you said, if I understood you correctly, you do take samples. Now, who chooses those samples?
Good question, thank you. Yes, there is in our regulation, it said it's up to 10 study programs, okay. But it doesn't tell much, does it? So we have created some criteria. So first of all, the sample should give a very wide picture of the institution. So if there are like 3 study program groups in the institution, each study program group should be represented. There should be bachelor programs, master programs, doctoral programs represented. If there are study programs in English taught in this institution, there must be at least one program that is taught in English. So this kind of criteria we have, and we negotiate this with higher education institutions. So they might have some proposals. Some of the study programs, perhaps very innovative programs, they want to get external feedback during this institutional accreditation. So it is one possibility. Or from the previous accreditations, if we see that there is some area that lags behind, or where there are problems, for example, with staff qualifications, we can propose that we want this study program to be included in this sample as well. So, yeah.
Okay. And my final question, I am aware that there are some questions in chat. In the core of those circles, I see research and development, service to society, and learning and teaching. So when you actually audit the institution or you accredit the institution, do you give equal weighting to all three? Or is there particular, perhaps, more weighting to one rather than the other?
Yeah, thank you. The weight of these 12 standards is equal. So the 5 standards for learning and teaching, of course, 5, it weights like a little bit more than 1 for research and development. So, and service to society is 1 among the 12. So in this regard, I can see now what you mean. Under the learning and teaching, there are 5 standards.
Okay.
So it makes a little bit more weight.
Yes, so it carries more weighting.
Yes, yes.
Okay, so I know that we have Dr. Vella's question. Dr. Vella, however, perhaps we can take Ruben Mifsuts. Go ahead, Ruben, we'll take your contribution now.
I can wait for Dr. Vella if need be.
Go ahead, go ahead.
All right, I wanted to ask a little bit more, ask you to elaborate a bit more about the service to society. I wrote some thoughts in the chat because I happen to be serving in a vocational college, which at the moment has the community as its focus. Our strategic plan places an onus on us on being a community college for all. How do you evaluate education institutions vis-a-vis their service to society?
Yes, thank you. There are some aspects that we pay attention to. These are, for example, the development of continuing education courses. This is one thing, the quality of these courses, and also the involvement of academic staff in professional societies in Estonia and abroad, so that the knowledge from outside the institution comes into the institution. These are the main aspects, but institution may have their own vision, what they want to develop under this service to society. So it can go more broader than continuing education courses or the involvement of staff. But these are perhaps the core topics here.
Thank you for your question.
Thank you.
I know we have another question. Kindly help to show the last 3 slides. I will show you the last 3 slides. That's not a problem. And Dr. Vella's question, Dr. Lauri, can you please elaborate about the challenges in order to audit online courses?
We don't really audit the online courses, but we involve the sample of these online courses in the course of institutional accreditation. So we ask the access to the Moodle system for the experts before the accreditation. So this is possible to see what are the developments in this regard. And perhaps the other important thing is that we try to involve the experts in the online learning into the expert groups. So this is something new for us, but this is one competence that is very much needed. And concerning the quality label for e-courses, there have been these quality criteria. Yeah, quality criteria developed already several years back, and now it is just needing a little bit of update. So at the course level, these quality criteria is pretty much there for us, and I'm happy to share the document if you write me. It's very good practice and much appreciated.
Thank you. I have, as Dr. Lauri was speaking, I was showing you the last 3 slides, so I hope that I've also addressed Bimbola's question. I don't know if there are any other questions. If not, we can now move on to Mr. Loonurm's, who will be sharing with us the following points. He'll be talking about from strategy to results, history of Estonian higher education national promotion, why international students choose Estonia, and the most popular university programs, employability, and after graduation. So I'll leave it in your good hands. In the meantime, if you do have any other questions, please feel free to ask them in chat during the presentation. Eero, in your good hands.
Thank you so much, Pamela. Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. Very nice to meet you. I will start with a personal story that I totally also I know the value of non-formal education. It was around 15 or 20 years ago. I don't remember exactly, but it was after the access to European Union, and there was a program of non-formal education called Youth in Action. And that was my first moment when I participated in some youth projects and youth exchanges where I saw active young people from Malta. And that was my first touch with Malta, and they were lovely people and fantastic people. And the other point was there is a network called Erasmus Student Network, and the people who were actively involving international students coming to Malta, also coming to Estonia from all over Europe. Then I managed to also get to know like what kind of events are done or what kind of activities are done for international students who are incoming to Maltese universities. So anyway, non-formal education and is a key word, and this is how I got my first touch with Malta. All right, I will be quick. I have a lot of slides, just like Liia, and I will cover lots of different topics. And later on, I think each one of you will get some bits and pieces which might be interesting for you, and ready for all the questions at the end. Yes, my name is Eero Loonurm. I'm the head of the national promotion system called Study in Estonia. And together with Liia, in that sense, I must say for the beginning that quality and promotion, we have been walking hand in hand during the last 10, 15 years, because basically we both want the same thing. We both want the society to develop, improve, to be open. And let's say that without quality, it's difficult to do promotion. Without promotion, nobody knows about the quality. So in that sense, we have been walking hand in hand, and we have been helping each other for the last 10, 15 years a lot. Yes, the first slide, please. These are the topics that I will talk about. A little bit about our history, otherwise it would be difficult to understand the present. And then I will go a little bit deeper and to see what we have done with the universities, what is the success story behind Estonia as a destination country, because we have been a success story on the European level too. And of course, the challenges. This one later as the last last point. Next one, Pamela. So 15 years in front of you. This is the number of degree students. Everything I talk about today, it's about degree students and not about exchange students or any visiting PhD or anything like that, only degree. And during the last 15 years, as you can see, the number of international degree students has grown more than 5 times. As you can see, there has been a decline during the last three years. Of course, you know all the reasons. It's the COVID-19, of course, and maybe some other challenges as well. But technically, these numbers, actually, there has been a lot of work behind that. And together, not just the National Promotion Agency, but everything has been accomplished together with our universities. Next one, Pamela. So we have had 2 very important frameworks we have been working on. In 2006, the internationalization strategy was created by the Ministry of Education together with us. the predecessor of Estonian and Education Youth Board. And yep, the next slide. I will already tell you what were the key topics that we were focusing on together with the universities. As you saw, the number was quite small at the beginning. In 2008, 7 and 6, it was the similar number. Then these were the 7 keywords that we were focusing most of all: to increase outbound student mobility, both inbound student mobility, to develop foreign language study programs, increase the international experience of PhD students, and increase the number of PhD students coming from abroad. These were the 7 key programs, key topics. And especially during the 2007-2013, we were working very hard to deal with these topics. Next one, Pamela. Here are the results. These are the results of the strategy. And 7 years later, as you can see, we didn't accomplish all the goals, but technically we managed to grow all the numbers we needed. Number 2 is exactly the one I am dealing with most of all. So from 900, it was growing to 3,400 at that time. Now it is around 5,000. We managed to increase the outbound student mobility, and we also managed to develop foreign language study programs, and we encouraged universities to open more and more programs. And also the amount of international PhD students was growing from 4% to 12%. And again, why we want international experience, there is one keyword which you know all very well, is internationalization at home. And exactly the students who can never afford to go study abroad to have this experience, then why not to invite people from all over the world to participate with the local people here, right here in Estonia. Next slide, please. And this is the official opinion of the World Bank Group and Boston College. And they said that this was a classroom example how things should be done. And things, yes, we were focusing very hard. And this opinion by the World Bank Group was something that we were really glad of. Of course, we knew ourselves too that the hard work paid off. But again, as a recognition, it was something that was very good to show the local and also international stakeholders. Next one. And as we accomplished so many different goals, then one of the strategies that was built up from the previous one was the international promotion strategy. The 2007 to 13, that period was mostly about recruitment. And from 2014 to 2020, we already saw that, okay, we know how recruitment works. Our universities became really professional. Then we thought like, okay, what about when the students graduate? Do we let them go? Or we would expect some of them, the most motivated ones, to stay? And of course, that would be a very long presentation about the legislation and about the employability 10, 15 years ago, which was at that time, it was a totally different scenario. For example, in the year 2010, when the international non-EU students graduated, they had to, if they didn't have a job on the day of graduation, they had to leave the country. So we basically, together with the Ministry of Education, we had long negotiations with different stakeholders, and we managed to explain like, look, we would expect them to study when they come here to study, and to find the job when it's the right time to find the job. And right now, the legislation is much better. Non-EU students can stay in Estonia for 9 months to find a job. And this has been one of the unique selling points as well, to explain everybody like, look, when you come to study, then you can stay here also looking for a job and getting an experience after graduating. So these are the 2 most important indicators that we were working on. This is the strategy that just ended on the 31st of May. Right now, the Ministry of Education is building a new strategy for the EU structural funds 2021 to 27 for that 7-year period. So recruitment, and as you can see, 30% of the graduates and masters and PhD we expected them to stay working in Estonia. So together with the recruitment, we were focusing also on employability. Liia mentioned here that we have 18 universities, so research universities and universities of applied sciences, or we in Estonia, we call them more higher education institutions. But Study in Estonia, we work together with these universities who have at least one degree program, the full program in English. And that's the list of universities who have it. And these were the stakeholders and the universities we were working with most of all. Next slide, please. And I think you have already been thinking for a longer time. So where do the students come from? Where do they come from? Which are our strategic priorities? Which are the strategic countries where we do most of our work? So this is the top 15 of the countries who come, of the students who come to do the full degree. And half of them are actually our target countries where we have been working a lot. And it's very easy if you ask, how do we choose the target countries? One of the most important keywords here is countries where Estonia has a representation, has an embassy or a consulate, because everything begins from applying a visa, and the countries where we don't have an embassy at all, the journey of the students is much more difficult. So here the countries like Finland, Ukraine, Russia, India, Latvia, Turkey, United States, Georgia, these are the countries where we have been working a little bit more than with the others. And there are, of course, countries where the student flow is anyway to all over the world. And I checked also the statistics of Malta, and I see that you also have students coming from different non-EU countries, and without basically doing any promotion at all. And we have the same case, and more than 100 nationalities. So most popular fields of study: business, law, and administration. Number 2 is all the different programs connected to humanities and arts. Is it about liberal arts? Is it about philosophy, semiotics, contemporary art, etc., or music? And 3rd is ICT. So all kind of different programs connected to IT. And Estonia's reputation as an IT country has been helping a lot, beginning from the national program Tiger Leap, which was opened a long time ago already, ending up with e-voting and e-residency, cybersecurity, etc. Next one. And yep, about the most popular study programs, I wrote here a small selection of programs, and let's say I haven't written it down into any kind of strategy, but basically I would say that I would classify the incoming students into 3 categories based on my own experience. Let's say that I don't have statistics here behind it, but if necessary, I think I can do a report about that. But one reason why students come, they want to see the success story, how Estonia has developed from 1991 after the collapse of Soviet Union to a country like we are right now. We are a member of OECD, European Union, NATO, etc. So these students come to study politics and governance, political sciences, for example, technology governance, public administration, all these kind of programs to see what did we do right on the political level, on the governmental level, about national policies. I would even put education programs under that category, and the students who want to see how we really did it. And when they graduate, they would go back to their home country and try to do similar developments like they saw here in Estonia. The second category would be everything concerning IT, cybersecurity, software engineering, informatics, etc. Everything about IT. We have 10. Well, now they say that it might be even 11, but we have wonderful unicorn value IT companies who have the value of 1 billion euros, and who have been that have basically were born during the last, let's say, 10, 15 years, and which are wonderful employers, both for local people and also for international students. Companies like Bolt, companies like Wise, before it was TransferWise, companies like Pipedrive. These are our success stories. And these companies need IT specialists, and why not to recruit an international student who has been here for 2 or 3 years and who knows our society and who has got the diploma here, and our employers also value the diploma from our own universities. And the third category I would classify now. The third category would be this kind of older or maybe even some new, let's say, competence centers where we have some kind of historical competence. For example, like semiotics. Let's say there were decades ago, there were, let's say, the most famous semiotic schools all over Europe. Let's say one of the top 3 of them was the semiotic school in Tartu from Juri Lotman, one of the greatest semiotics teachers and professors in the whole Europe. Then, for example, landscape architecture has a very high level. Then, of course, animation in the Estonian Academy of Arts, and wellness and spa service design is one of the very popular programs. So, and film studies, of course, and of course, music. Anyway, I could continue with the list. But anyway, very specific programs with wonderful professors and which have their own, let's say, competence centers. So that would be my selection. Yep, most of the students are master's degree students. We have also then the bachelor students. But anyway, the national priorities are more master's and PhD students. And altogether, yes, nearly 5,000 international students. And half, basically 48% of the students are women, 52% of are men, and it would be, I would say, pretty equal. And so these are some of the slogans, some of the things we have been talking about when it comes to recruitment. So, yep, we have a lot of programs which are taught in English. The programs, the diplomas are accepted internationally. Anyway, I think the selling points here and the slogans and the reasons are very similar to Malta. I tried to compare now 2 systems and what you are doing in Malta, and I would say that it's very, very similar. And as Pamela, as you said at the beginning, or Kenneth too, that our countries are similar, although we are in the northern part, you are in the southern part of Europe. We are very similar to each other. And yep, in that sense, safe and stable environment, different scholarships, English language spoken widely. So these are the slogans we have been using during the last 10, 15 years. Next one, Pamela. And employability. Yep, this is something that has been an argument on the national level, that on the national level for the local stakeholders, we explain that international students, when they stay working later on in Estonia, they can help us, and their contribution is important for our national budget. So this is from 2019, and Pamela, if you show the next slide, and this is 10 million. So in 4 years, the contribution of only international degree students was basically double, more than 20 million euros, and it's both the students and alumni. And this number is growing and growing. And this is mostly the reason, mostly what we show on the local level. But for the prospective students, we mostly say that, look, as you can see, Estonia is hospitable. We would really expect you, if you are motivated, if you like Estonia, if you want to stay after graduating, Estonian labor market is here for you. So again, one of the selling points that we have been using. Next one, Pamela. And yes, now there are some stories. I thought like to go a little bit more personal. Yes, you can show four stories here. First one, American student studying business and working for one of our unicorn value companies. Violin student from Colombia, working now for the biggest Estonian theater and also in one South Estonian music school and teaching violin for kids. Then there is a Belarusian girl who says like, I must have been Estonian in my previous life. She studied business here and also stayed working here. Then the girl here is from Sri Lanka, and she studied cybersecurity. And somehow also she liked Estonian nature and the swamps and the forests so much and everything else and our labor market that she stayed working for Estonian IT company. Next one, next 4 stories. Then Eric from Ghana studied business, and even a Ghanaian student says that our nations have a lot in common. Then a Lithuanian student who studied in the Estonian Academy of Music and Theatre and who stayed working in the national orchestra. Then a Chinese student who stayed here and working in business. Ukrainian student who studied environmental engineering and who created her own company here. By the way, this is very easy to do in Estonia, but this is another session and another presentation, another webinar for Eva and Kai to do. And the last 4 stories here. So Croatian girl studied animation and also stayed, and she said that Estonian winters help you concentrate on your work, which is, again, we were never thinking about it before, but maybe, yep. Again, maybe it might be one of the good things to tell the future students. A Finnish student who studied veterinary medicine and stayed also working in Estonia. A Pakistani student who studied engineering and design, and a Spanish student who studied communication and also stayed working for I think it was Bolt, for our Estonian company here. And that's a very small selection. And anyway, European Commission also has noticed like what we have been doing, how we are working strategically. And also they published a story 2 years ago saying like Estonia is a country where it's very good to study, but it's also Estonia is expecting students who are motivated and who want to stay to work in Estonia. These students are more than welcome. And the last topics, yes, the future and challenges and next steps. Recruitment, of course. We have to carefully now have a look at all our target countries and the strategic markets. One key word here is that, for example, Russia. Russia has always been our target country and the second biggest country, sending country. But right now, the situation is totally different, and we all know about it. So we have to have a look at the new markets and the existing markets with a totally different view. Estonian language is a topic. So right now the situation is that if the students graduate and they stay working in Estonia, most of them stay working in English language. And very many stakeholders on the national level ask, let's say, what about the learning Estonian? Who would be the right body or the right institution who would help the motivated graduates to learn more the local language? Third one, the benefits of internationalization are still not really visible and understandable in our society. And one of the reasons is that was also published by the National Statistics Office is that the students who graduate, 90% of them stay working in the capital city, in the capital area. And now the question would be that actually there is a need for employees in every Estonian county. How international graduates would get to work in different corners of Estonia. Estonia is a little bit bigger than Malta, so in that sense, different counties, different regions, they all would be happy to receive international graduates. How should it happen? That's a very big question for the future. And employability, of course, this is the question as well. Let's say, what about the future program? What would be the percentage of international students who we would expect to stay in our country, to work in our companies, and yep, these would be the 4 key points that I wrote down right now that we are working with. But again, these are all actually something that we need to discuss with lots of different stakeholders, not only universities, but also the different employers associations. This is our website, lots of information, lots of different programs, success stories, everything you can explore and have a look what we are doing. And anyway, if you have any kind of questions, ideas, then I would be more than happy to answer. This is it. That was now the very short overview. Thank you very much. All questions, more than welcome. Yes, now there are 2 emails here. One is my personal email too, if anybody wants to write, they can choose which address but both of them I received both emails. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Eero. Thank you. I think it was extremely interesting. I could see in numbers, the numbers speak for themselves, how much perhaps work has gone behind all of those numbers. Because as you said, you don't just, there's no magic wand. It involves a lot of people and a lot of work. So clearly you've been working very, very hard at it. And hopefully you'll continue to reap the benefits. I don't know if there are any questions. I can't see any raised hands. Please, now is the time to ask any questions, make your own contributions. If you have any questions to Eero, who I forgot, by the way, to introduce properly. I know it's the final part. I'm so sorry, Eero, but I was looking at the time and I was panicking a little bit. But yes, I would like to do justice to all your work. He has been active in higher education internationalization for nearly 15 years, and his responsibilities in the Estonian Education and Youth Board include the development and execution of the National Higher Education Marketing Strategy for Study in Estonia, and representing Estonia in communications-related working groups on the state level and European level. He is the marketing and communications expert in promoting Europe as a study destination for the European Commission project Study in Europe. And I think that is precisely what you did today. You really did justice to that, and you really promoted all of the hard work that you've been trying to do there. So thank you very much. I can't see any raised hands or any questions in chat. So if you do not have any questions, I would like to now move on to reminding you. Oh, we do have a question. Eero, do
Yes.
international students find it difficult to get a student visa?
Very good question. Basically, this is one of the key topics and one of the challenges as well. We have very few embassies all over the world, and the student journey is actually very long. I'm giving you one example. There is a continent with lots of fantastic countries, and the continent is South America. Estonia doesn't have any embassies in South America, which means that the student journey to get the D visa, the long stay visa, they have to go to the embassy to apply for the visa. But if there is no embassy in the whole continent, then they need to approach the closest embassy, and this is very far away. And in that sense, we are not competitive at all in the whole continent. Although every year there are more and more students coming from that continent, but actually I'm calling it even a small miracle. In that sense, the consular services would be one of that would be the magic wand, as you, Pamela, said. That would be one of the magic wands, and that would help us a lot. And I would say, to answer that question, that would be the main obstacle here and the main challenge for the new prospective students. Will Estonian University start offering more distance learning subjects in the future? Now it really depends. There are some programs which are already kind of a mix between physical attendance and also learning online, but this is now regarding the degree studies. But when it comes to, for example, adult education and other education fields, maybe Liia, maybe you can comment more on that, because you have had a look also on the other education fields.
Yes, the number is growing, definitely. This is the trend that we are witnessing. There is more and more courses held online, and also the blended learning courses, of course. This is like normality already. In some universities, there is a requirement that every course should have a digital support available. That should be part-time at least in online. But if we talk about the whole degree programs taught online, I think in the very near future we'll see the growth in these programs as well. Not that many yet. Yeah.
There is a comment from one guest. By the way, one clarification, of course, inside Schengen, inside European Union, it's not an issue at all. We can all travel easily, and especially with Erasmus Plus program. And anyway, that's a totally different topic. But when it comes to degree students and non-EU ones, then it's already a different story. And the comment here, the language seems to be a challenge. Absolutely. Absolutely. And is there anything that can be done? I think it should be one of the national priorities, and our national strategy to 2035. This is actually covering the topic that how to teach more Estonian, A1, A2, and even higher language level to the ones who are motivated, because then the chance that they would find a job, and not only in the international companies, but also in the local companies, local factories and systems where working language is Estonian, it would be much easier, of course.
Okay, I'm very much aware of the time. Unless there's any other questions that you would like to ask, I would like to remind all of you, please, to register if you want a certificate of participation. I have posted the link in chat once again. And if you would like to scan the QR code, please do so. We will be closing the registration link roughly in about an hour. Okay, so please, if you want a certificate of participation, please do so immediately. Okay, to conclude, I would like to take this opportunity to, rather than using Mandela's image of education as a weapon, in this day and age when weaponry and destruction is all we see around us, I'd like to compare education at whatever level to a tool, one of many in our toolbox. Tools can be used for the good and they can be used for the bad. And I think it is our role as educators, as leaders, to make sure that whether it's through quality assurance, whether it's through recruitment, whether it's through motivation, I think we need to make our learners, no matter what their age is, aware of the possibilities that this tool gives and of the power it enables us to have, and how we can use that power for the benefit of us all and the planet, and hopefully for generations to come. To me, that is the ultimate aim of any educational system, to leave this world slightly better than we have found it. On that note, I would like to thank you all for your active participation. I would like to thank Dr. Lauri and Mr. Loonurm again for their insightful ideas and very informative and detailed presentations. I would like to thank Kai and Dr. Vella for this wonderful opportunity, and we look forward to seeing you after a very restful summer break.